Happy Monday, everybody. We are back again, and we have an amazing guest this week. It is going to be Yaz from Australia. She is going to hop on in just a moment. I know y'all are joining our chat here for a second. So as soon as she gets in here, I see her in here, then we'll talk about how we can essentially create a community of creatives. So here we go. We're going to get Yaz right in here right away. Talk. You guys, I'm so excited. This is just like the suspense at its finest. Yes, girl, you can do it. Thank you all of us for joining. If you have any questions as we're chatting too, feel free to just drop those messages into the chat and I'll be sure to get to them with Yaz. But as we're waiting for her internet to hopefully connect, go ahead and tell us where you're joining us from today. And I know I see you, Yaz, but I can't connect you. Try again. Let me see. Let's see. Go live. Okay. Yaz, accept my call. You guys, this is the magic of the yay! Hi, Yaz! I feel like
I just had this drip of sweat.
I know, the moment when
Where's
it connects
the
is like the highlight of my day. We're like, we did it!
Oh, no, we did it!
Yay!
We got the right time as well.
We did it! You guys, those of you that don't know, okay, so Yaz, where are you joining us from?
Melbourne, Australia.
Okay, this beautiful girl's from Australia, and I can't tell you how hard it was for both of us to figure out time zones. Like, it is 9 o'clock on Tuesday for you, and it's like 5 p.m. on Monday for me, and or 4. It's very confusing, but we did it!
I'm so proud of us. And I was like, why am I not here?
I love it. Okay,
hi, everyone.
You are covered in color. So excited to see you today. I know you've been on some podcasts. You've been on a podcast with Nick Hahn and have been kind of bopping around the Art of Ed world. But can you just start by telling us a little bit about you, Yaz, and then we'll get into our conversation about cultivating a community of creatives. So tell us just about you and what your whole deal is.
So my name's Yaz Gaté, and I'm the founder of Tiny Cupboard Creatives. So basically, I've been teaching for 17 years. I taught in England for 6 and then another 11 here in Australia with refugee kids. And that was awesome. I taught them English as an additional language. And then I was in Australia. You actually, from the ages of 5 to 12, you're allowed to teach any subject area. So after I had my children, I was gifted the art role. And I've always been quite creative in the outside world. So my teaching degree and my art degree kind of just fused together.
Yes.
And I taught art to refugees for about 5 years. And then I got sick and I decided I'm going to launch into my own business and teach from my home studio, which is here. Yes. But it looks a bit different because of Corona. COVID. We've got all these rules and square meters, and so I've had to relocate my studio to a larger space. But that's what I do now. I teach kids art, and the surprise of Corona was I teach adults now as well. And that one kind of like I think appeared. Maybe it was a little bit more of a surprise to you. I know we were chatting a little bit before. Like you always had your hand kind of like, okay, I'm going to talk to my younger kiddos. I'm going to really kind of connect with them. But that's part of our conversation today is how are we going to cultivate the creatives around us, right? Those people. So let me first ask, your Instagram handle is Tiny Cupboard Creatives with underscores in between each. So can you tell us a little bit about the origin of how that like handle absolutely. So basically, in the school where I taught with the refugee children, I was given a cupboard, 7.6 meters by 3.5, no sink, just nothing. It was literally a cupboard.
It worked.
Gut it. And what I loved about it was I felt like MacGyver. You know MacGyver? I was like, we have no technology. We have no sink. We have the supply cupboard is across the hallway. So I couldn't even run to get supplies. And what I loved about the cupboard was so many great ideas came from it. It didn't matter what we had. It didn't matter. We didn't have a sink. We just made things work. And I found that the the juiciest of ideas came from that room. Now, I painted murals all over the walls, inside, outside. And the day I decided to leave because I was having treatment for my breast cancer, they demolished the building.
Oh my gosh.
Right?
Yeah.
So what's interesting about that is I was like, well, how perfect. I'm just going to teach from my cupboard at home.
Yeah.
And it was the same concept until Corona.
Yeah.
So the heart is still there. I still believe in not having to have everything or all the things. You can still create with very minimal things.
Yeah,
That's
love
my
that.
philosophy.
I think that's a great transition into our conversation about sort of how you envision teaching and what your philosophy is, because I think a lot of us share that too, is the fact that especially now, like we're pretty limited on what we can do, what our kids have, where we are we even in our classroom? It's like everything is so different and inspires this sort of problem solving that maybe we were initially trained to do, right? You're like, okay, my art supplies, but there's so much more to that there, right?
Correct.
So can you give us, so we kind of understand like where Tiny Cover Creatives came from, a tiny little baby art room, and making it work, a little baby art room. But
I loved it.
Yeah, I know. And we grow to love those spaces because we put so much time and energy. Yeah, we put our hearts into.
Like, oh, I love this space. Yeah, had great energy, you know. Yeah.
Oh yeah, and I mean, a huge part of that is you bringing that, right? Because an amazing educator can make any place feel exciting and welcome, and you definitely do that, yes. So can you tell us what teaching looks like right now? You said you work with refugees primarily. What does like your day-to-day, your week look like right now?
So I don't work with them anymore, sadly, because I now work from home. So now I have the polar opposite spectrum.
Okay.
So kids who go to private schools who, I don't know, probably focus on other things, and their parents just want them to have a real juicy art fix.
Sure.
But now I have this kind of dream situation where I teach all the things I love to, I've got, most of my kids are from 4 to 7.
Okay.
Then I've got a large cohort of 8 to 12. And then I have adults, a whole group of adults. And the concept is the same. I teach them everything that I love. We explore, a big thing for me is the story. So I look at the artist, their story, if there's any suffering, their artwork, their technique, and then we explore. And then what's unusual about me, and I tell parents this all the time, I will let the kids go rogue. So I will say, we're learning about Mizaki Kawaii today. You can choose A, B, or C. You choose which one you want to go to. And the kids might say, one of them would say, oh, I don't like this one. So that's okay, because with art, you don't have to love it, but you have to try it and be open to it. And then tomorrow we move on.
Yeah.
So that's my philosophy. So at the moment I teach weekly to all those groups, and then I run workshops as well. So it might be lino printing, it might be weaving, and sometimes it's just cake and art.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of our conversation today, right? Is art can be sort of this beautiful pathway to connect. That the community is almost sometimes more important than the art itself. Is, you know, like when I was talking to I think it was Candido, and he was saying that he doesn't like to create in a vacuum, but instead like work with people. So I know that. There's certainly different regulations and things that are kind of going on right now as far as the amount of people that can hang out, and I know that to an extent that's happening for you as well in Australia. 100%. But what kinds of things do you find important about connecting with adults specifically? Because this is sort of like your creative group, right? Your creative community, which you're cultivating based on the fact that you're saying, hey, come hang out with me, come make art with me, and be part of this passionate, amazing place and thing and experience. So what kinds of things do you feel like are important for connecting with adults as well as children when you're creating a community?
What's interesting, I think this was a lesson that I was gifted during Corona. You know, Corona's, you know, it's crazy. But one of the big silver linings I thought was like, oh my God, adults are thirsty just like children. Yeah. Right?
And so they want to play.
Adults, they don't play, you know, you guys are in it as well. Like we went through 6 months of severe lockdown. 5 kilometer radius. We weren't allowed to see people. The shops were closed. 6 months. It was a long time, you know? And what was interesting was I was like, all right, I'm going to bite the bullet. I'm going to do Zooms. I'm going to go online. I'm going to do YouTube. It's fine. Yep. And I always said, I will never do this. Never.
Look at you now.
I know. Anyway, so what was interesting was I would teach the children and the parents would join in, right? And then I'm like, okay, so it's term time now. Like, if you want to sign up, sign up. It was the parents that signed up, not the children.
Yeah.
So what I've learned is that adults especially, and are just like kids, they crave that connection.
Yes.
Now, it's an interesting thing because it's a kind of a double-edged blade, right? So I had all these adults coming at me, my limiting story that I don't do adults, and people that are professional watercolor artists, people that have had textiles degrees, or and I had to really get out of my headspace and go, people are choosing to ask to hang out with me. What do I bring? So I had to leave those stories behind, and I've learned that my superpower is gathering creatives together and sharing the ideas and feeding them.
Yeah, I mean, honestly,
so that's my thing.
That is fully a superpower. I mean, it's hard to do that. And that ability to make people connect with each other and make them feel safe and loved and excited about creating and talking, all of that is fully a skill that gets exercised and encouraged in the way that you talk to people. I saw a lot of people really excited about the fact that you're right. Adults are thirsty to create. Like, anytime I do a staff thing with like the other staff in my school, they're like, well, are we making art? Right? Like, they get excited because it's sort of out of the ordinary. So I guess let me kind of piggyback on that a little bit, because I heard you talking about like putting those stories in your head a little bit to the side. And I know that you both, you and I are pretty open about chatting about mental health and like kind of being open about how we feel about certain things. So can you dive into that just a little bit about that self-doubt and like your history as an artist and art educator compared to leading this group of adults? What did you struggle with and then get stronger at?
Yeah, sure. So I've had a history of anxiety, like through my adult life.
Yep.
So I'm very mindful, like I meditate, I'm very conscious of journaling and essentially getting out of my own way. Yeah. So part of the Corona experience was I led a book club. I thought I'd be a bit like Oprah without all the goodies. And I ran a book club with The Artist's Way. I don't know if you've heard of Julia Cameron. And, that was a life-changing experience, leading 9 women through that book, because what it does is that it unearths all of your limiting beliefs, your stories. It actually pinpoints when the shift happened. Like where you're like, oh my God, so-and-so told me I needed to go to drawing school or whatever. So I used to say, I'm not going to do it because I never did fine arts training because, but what I didn't honor is that some people, just like musicians, it pours through us.
Yeah.
Right? So it's actually awesome having the kids and the adults come to my home because they see this isn't a gimmick. I literally am pouring creative energy out. Yes. In my furniture, in the walls, like everywhere. Yeah. So for me, I realized, a lot of the parents say the same thing, or the adults say, oh, I can't draw. I can only draw stick figures. And I'm like, I don't know about that, So I say to them, it's interesting. So I might teach about 5 artists. I'll say, let's stalk these artists. This is the medium they use. But then underneath that, I say, it's interesting. We don't allow ourselves time to play. So people pay me like how I pay for a coffee in the morning. Yeah. I pay to stop. They pay to stop. So it's this kind of, we need to allow ourselves time to play so we can connect and let it flow. We are clogged up adults. With like school and work commitments and laundry. It's really important to channel those moments for me and with the adults. That's what I bring. It's like, we're here to exhale. We're here to play. There's no pressure. There's no pressure. So that's what I feel like my role is. Like, what do I bring? Okay, so my limiting belief is I don't have a fine arts degree. But what I do have is an ability to bring people together.
Completely.
And I have an ability to create a safe space for them to try. And that's the
Yes.
seed. And that's what's really blown me away, because I did some like short 6-week courses during lockdown, and those seeds are still growing.
Yeah.
They're 2 months down. They're like, I did this thing with Yaz 2 months ago. This is what I'm doing today. And I'm like, oh my
Yeah.
God.
It's like
Yeah,
unlocking the door, right? It's like
yes.
it's reminding them that, first of all, it's okay to play. It's okay to try and to fail, and making that safe space, which a lot of art educators feel, sort of natural to be able to do, but that we underestimate how important that is to show people, right? Like even just, I can't even be, I'm just fumbling over my words for how many times somebody says, I can't draw, like an adult.
Yes.
I can't draw, I can only draw stick figures, blah, 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 I'm not an artist.
Yeah.
It's like, I think art teachers, like, my heart palpitates, because I'm like, wait, it's okay, right?
Or they'll say, oh, I love it, but I'm not good at it. It's like, wow, we have so many people walking around with these untruths. Like, this is not true.
Yeah.
It's not true. So at the end, I'll say, like, so next time you say you can only draw stick figures, now you can do contour drawing.
Yeah.
Now you can do line drawing or scribble drawing. Like, these are real things, people.
Right. And giving them the tools to realize that it doesn't have to be a perfect vision of what you think, but it's really the process, it's the action, and it's that sort of release, right? That safe place.
Yeah.
So I think, I mean, maybe you can share with us just a few more things that you did with specifically those adults, because I know a lot of us have, art educators specifically that are watching, have that connection with those younger kiddos, but sometimes I feel like we're missing that community, or maybe you got to just like really cultivate it yourself, and how important it is to connect with adults, right? And find
so
that
important.
Connection. Yeah.
Because
especially right now. The what?
Like if we have happy adults, the kids are happier space, the energy is a happier space.
Oh, completely.
So it's like allowing space for those adults to come.
Yes.
And I've said this to a few of my educator friends, like, adults are just like children, but kind of worse. Like, they're so anxious.
Yeah.
And I've heard it from so many adults, like, oh, I feel really anxious about coming on Thursdays, or I really feel anxious about coming on Saturday. I'm like, just come. Like, we'll have tea, we'll have biscuits, we'll warm up. And often what I'll do is I'll, with adults, cover their hand completely with a paper.
Ooh.
So when we do the blind drawing, it's a complete release of expectation, because I have literally covered I've covered their hand.
Yeah. And
now we are drawing, not looking at the paper.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, all we're doing is using our eyes to trace what we see, and our hand is moving. It's going to look hilarious, and that's fine. And my beautiful art teacher taught me that. As an adult, like, I would go to, I'm a serial short courser. I love a short course. Like, it's just something that I do. And my beautiful art teacher did the exact same to her adults. We're just going to warm up. But I took it to the next level by putting a physical...
Like a barrier,
a barrier between their here and here.
Yeah.
So that they could go for it. And then what we do is I often share all the beautiful artists, like maybe I'll do 4 artists for watercolor. And I always differentiate, just like the kids, the learning. So there might be a more abstract piece, or like intuitive, like you. Then there might be something a bit more botanic. Then there might be, and I have 4 options, like a little platter of art.
Yes.
And then I say, let's play with the techniques of the one that you're drawn to. So there's this feeling of success, because how do we measure success? We always look outwards, which is not ideal, but that's common. And we go, oh, mine looks the same. And then it was really beautiful. I had a gorgeous friend come to my last adult workshop, and she's like, I always told myself I wasn't creative. It was so funny, Sarah. She was still going 40 minutes after the class. I taught her just masking using the washi tape and the peeling. And I said, like, you can add texture by going really dry. It just was the most beautiful thing to watch. I was like, aren't you a physical education teacher? Or like, you always said that you weren't arty, but look at you. I was so I just had goosebumps
Yeah.
Like she tapped into flow. And, you know, as an artist, and you're an artist, you know, when you hit those sweet spots where time just disappears.
Yeah, totally. Totally.
She found that on her first hit.
And, you know, I think that's actually a really interesting way that you phrase it too, is sort of that flow, because like people who maybe have anxiety, or people who just need an outlet, or like are feeling depressed from like isolation, or just so many things, using that outlet to kind of have it be almost a meditation on its own can be a really, really beautiful way to express yourself, right? You don't have to be like, oh man, now I got to learn how to meditate. That's a stressor. It's like, no, you can do this through action, through process, through community. There's so many ways that you can release through art, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
And a lot of people will say, oh, but art equipment's really expensive. So that's my other philosophy is, well, come and play with my equipment.
Yeah.
And then when you love something, go and buy it.
Yeah.
So I've had a few friends say, I really hate Posca. I hate it. And then I'm like, look, just come. We'll next week we'll bring the Posca or whatever. And they're obsessed now.
Right.
Because, you know, you look at Posca or Copics, they're $10 or $8 in Australia. They're really expensive.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, so just come. And if you love it, then you can go and invest in it.
Right.
So for me, it's kind of like a tapas of equipment as well. Like I'm like, you know, I was one of those serial hoarders where I'd want to weave. So I'd buy like a weaving frame, and then like, it's not for me. And, you know, you've been there, right? Like,
oh yeah, I have 90 different kinds of materials where I'm like, this is my embroidery section. This is my printmaking section. Like, I can't even. It's too much.
You know, me and my latch hook, we're really getting along there.
Yeah.
I've got this pillow that I've been latch hooking for 2 years. I'm like, nah, we're fine.
Hey, you know what?
Do lino now.
And Yaz, you know what will make you feel better is I was listening to a chat by Becky Simpson from Chipper Things, and she was saying that it's good to have half-finished projects, because then when you go into your studio or go into your creative space, you're not feeling like you have to start from scratch, but you just think, oh, what about this half-finished here? So it's good. It's good for you. It's good for your brain. Always have something in progress. Always multiple things going on. It's a good thing. Okay, I'm sorry to cut you off, because I know you're in the middle of that, but I did just want to remind or read a couple of these things, because a few friends were reminding us about sort of getting in that art zone. And I know Janet here just said, sometimes meditation is too close to home. Making art allows you to focus outside your body, inside your body, and stay present. So it's kind of like, it can, you know how like sometimes it's easier to talk to someone when you're doing something, like when you're drawing, or you're tossing a ball back and forth, or whatever with a kiddo. It like makes you be able to focus a little more because you're distracted. So teaching both our students and our adult buddies to do that thing is so helpful. Right? Yeah.
Well, it's that kind of removing, like getting out of your own way.
Yeah.
It just kind of allows, it's like for me, it's kind of like puncturing the pressure, and it's just seeping out. It's like, because sometimes I think our thoughts are just so oppressive, or, you know, it's just so cloudy that when you do, like if I just put the watercolors in front of an adult, it takes about 15 minutes for them to warm up, or 20 minutes. But then something happens. They just kind of start swimming and chatting, and someone will say, oh, have you seen this artist? And then it's this beautiful exchange, and it's about art, but it's never really about art. It's about where we're all inside at that moment, you know. And it's an interesting thing to witness when they've started their own exchange, for me to step back and go, that is like, it's sorcery. It's like magic.
Yeah. And that's, again, to reiterate, that's what you're doing, is you're building a creative community where, yes, you're teaching them about art. Yes, you're giving them the supplies, but you're also just teaching them how to connect and, you know, love other creatives and love other people, right?
And and love what their efforts are at that point, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
The community thing is key for me. It's, even with the kids, I've started to create a community within the little kids groups. And I will say, oh, so and-so is going to join us from, you know, on Zoom. And they've never met in real life, but during lockdown, they saw each other every week.
Yep.
They crave each other now. It's
Yeah.
really a beautiful thing to witness. When I say I'm a curator of creatives, I really mean it's really interesting what I bring.
Yeah.
So for me to say, oh, I didn't go to school, I feel like I'm not giving myself credit for the things that I was given, just born with in an energetic sense, you know?
Yeah.
It's,
and,
yeah.
And bringing yourself back to having that self-doubt a little bit and kind of that mental health, because there's so much stuff happening up in here that people can't see, right? Like, again, how you and I chatted before, and you were saying, okay, you don't have a fine arts degree, so you're sort of feeling like, you know, maybe you don't have the techniques or whatever, just to sort of paraphrase, but there's so much more to that. So trying to, like you said before, get out of your own way and give yourself the permission to say, well, what can I give? And that those things are still completely beneficial and necessary and useful to so many people.
And I will say to people, when I meet them, and I'll say, if you want something more technical, I can show you my art teacher. Yeah. But if you want to play, exhale, just have a good time, like, learn about new artists, come. That's what I provide. It's a space, and as opposed to a technical drawing class or a technical oil painting class. So that's, I know where my lane is, you know. And if you get us, okay, you guys can keep going. Like, it's, I think there's enough for us all.
Yeah. Oh, completely. That abundance mentality, right? Is there's room for everyone, and there's different strengths that we each have that we can give to that creative community. So let's talk just a little bit. You are like in a jungle of beautiful botanical Yazness. So like, can you tell us?
I was like, I positioned my table as like, too much.
I love it, and I want more. I wish you were like hiding behind a painting and you'd be like, hey.
I was like, Sarah, like,
never too much.
We're live. I can't.
More earrings, put them on. No,
I need more. I need balloons.
It's so good, but you're clearly surrounded by like your own art as well. So as a person that creates a community for artists, but also is a practicing artist and also is someone that loves to create, can you just tell us a little bit about like sort of your vibe painting, or what do you get inspired by? Because I love to hear, and I think we'd all love to hear about what you create as well.
Yeah, look, I've always had a love for you know, drawings that look like children have done them. So Picasso or Matisse in his later years, that kind of, there's an element of flow there that I'm mesmerized by. So I used to just call it doodling. I guess it is doodling, but it turns out it's art.
Yeah. Hey, look at that.
I was like, oh, okay, I guess. So with this one here, this was, these are all Filipino botanics. So I went down a rabbit hole because I was born in Australia. When I got sick, I was like, I know nothing about myself. Nothing. Like, as in, I knew about the food. So the color palette here is Filipino desserts. So that's interesting. Asian desserts are so synthetic, so bright. And so this is all Filipino desserts.
That's fun.
With the Filipino botanics.
Yeah.
So that's that one. And because I often teach with this in the background, someone actually asked me to do this piece here, which is Australian botanics with a Filipino color palette.
Gorgeous.
So for me, black lines are crucial, bright colors are crucial. And you know that time where you think, well, that's not going to match. Oh, I love that. They're the moments that I love. It's like, oh, mustard and whatever. Like, yeah.
My friend was giving me a hard time because I'm working on an embroidery right now, and I literally put like neon yellow and mustard yellow together, and I'm like, that shouldn't work, and it probably doesn't, but I don't care because I love it.
So like this blue, my husband's like, blue? I'm like, I love it. and then this one here, the yellow and the pink and the peach, everyone's like, oh, really? I'm like, oh,
yeah. Yes.
That's the one.
Yes.
And my husband's like, how do you know? I said, I just feel it. And I know technically it doesn't work, but it does.
But also that's the part of it, right? Because also when you say technically it doesn't work, it's like, but for who? Like, what's the tech? You know what I mean? I
And
feel
I'm
like
a
it
real
does.
about energy. Like, so people, I'm a real believer that it'll translate, that it's like, yeah.
Yeah,
And that's
totally.
exactly what happened when I did this big buddy over here. It's like,
Yes.
yes,
It's
yes.
so good. It's so good. I just want
So
to live
that's
in
what
that
I do.
world.
So at the moment, I am known for, like, so a lot of my commissions are based on these big, beautiful botanics.
Mm-hmm.
This one was it was inspired by several artists, because at this point I was doing work for the Tarawara Museum of Art in Victoria,
Mm-hmm.
teaching workshops during lockdown. And I was like, oh, this big piece here is like, reminds me of Georgia O'Keeffe's large scale paintings.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of Aboriginal paintings have got this beautiful texture where there's loads of paint. Like there's an abundance of paint, it's almost like a cake icing. I loved how it had all these textures on it.
Mm-hmm.
And there was an Australian artist called Hilary Mays, and her artwork's quite modern, quite minimalist, but her philosophy is, it really hit me, like, you know, when a philosophy hits you and you're like, oh my God, I need to do that for myself. So
Yeah.
she says things like, she chooses to do one thing in her art, and then she doesn't plan a big thing. She then decides, this is what I'm going to do next. So she decides on her next move at every step.
Interesting.
So it's quite liberating.
Yeah.
Right? Because if you just follow the spark to one spot and then you reassess and go, okay, where's the next spark? It's sometimes, and I experienced this during lockdown, where I felt like I was paralyzed. I couldn't create because I was trying to manifest this big idea and it wasn't coming. So when I did this piece, it was literally one step in front of the other, and I did something crazy, Sarah. I did it live during my art Zoom lessons in front of the adults.
Yes, girl.
So they could see that I too have those struggles, that they're in their head. I was externalizing. Yes. Oh, I don't know how I feel about that. Oh, I love that. I love that. It was like this kind of dialogue.
Yeah.
And it was funny. I turned around and looked at my computer screen, and all these adults were like,
they just want to watch somebody create. Like,
yeah. And I said, they just couldn't believe that, you know, it is a process. There's a lot of, it's like a little boxing ring in there sometimes. Like, oh, no. And then when you find the flow, they could see me just power. Yes. I don't want to lose it. I don't want to lose it. So I'm just going to execute this giant flower now while I'm in momentum. Yeah. And then the next week they're like, are you going to do it today? I'm like, oh, I'm not feeling it today.
And
so that's
sometimes
we
gotta follow our heart a little bit too. That reminds me of this is almost more of just like a life philosophy about how to live your life. But sometimes, as we know, things can get very stressful. Things can be kind of like tight inside, right? Yes. And those feelings can overcome. But one thing that I heard, I was listening to a podcast before, and they were talking about sort of just like, as a human, how can you live your life as a philosophy? And what it boiled down to was just do the next right thing. So whether the right thing is like, I need to just sit down and breathe in a couple breaths. I need to find something tasty to eat. I need to call a friend. Whatever the next right thing is that you make right is the next right step, right? Because you're making it right. And so following a painting in that same way, where you're like, I'm just going to do the next thing and the next thing and just see what that creates. So it's not this big creation, is like I want to do that now, which isn't that different from how I paint, but like there's something very simple about that, Yaz, that's really inspiring.
Well, you inspired me, and overt space, like it was just kind of like, I love it.
Follow it,
going with it. Yeah. And one of the most common questions I get from my adults is, how do you know when to stop? Mm-hmm. And I will say something really irritating. I'll say, I don't know, when do you stop?
You tell me.
And I'll say, sometimes you need to go over to know that feeling of when you should stop. Does that make sense? So
you learn that's too far.
Yeah, that's too far. So where were you just before you went over the edge? Because, you know, you've been there where you go, oh, as soon as you lay a drop, you're like, oh, no, I shouldn't have done it. It's too late. It's too late. And then knowing, I'm just going to let it dry out. I'm just going to let it dry out. I'll paint over it.
Yep.
But it's that kind of like, oh, no, I should have just stopped. And I saw it happen in my last class where you could hear the sigh of, I was like, oh, you've gone too far. You've gone too far.
But
It's like,
then
oh,
I know when
it's
we
so
watch it,
life,
we learn
isn't
from
it?
it. Yeah.
Art, creating art is such a life euphemism. Like, it's just like, we always go too far. We don't listen to ourselves. We
Yeah.
just need to listen to ourselves and know our boundaries.
Right. Completely.
You know?
So I just want to be in your class. Yes. Like, can you just offer, like, here, just tune in at 3
Sure.
a.m. It's fine.
Yeah.
But
Well, you know,
I did
yeah,
also,
sure. Yeah,
I
sure,
know,
sure.
right? It's gonna make sense. It's totally fine. But I did also want to talk about the fact that you do often kind of collaborate and you reach out, you know, to other art educators in America and all over the place. You've been working with museums. You've collaborated in many ways with other individuals. So that's
Yes.
kind of the last thing I wanted to chat with you about was what kind of inspiration do you find from collaborations of maybe even people you haven't met or
Yeah.
connections you haven't met. I also see real quick before I forget to ask,
Yeah.
an individual asked any suggestions on how to form an adult group without being the
Oh.
teacher. Ooh, that is a great question.
Ooh, how
Let you
did this
take that one.
start? You know what? I don't know who asked that, but that's such a good question. How did this all start? I think I had only two adults who said, "Can you start something?" And I remember saying before lockdown, "Absolutely not." Like,
Uh-huh.
adults are scary. Turns out, all you've got to do if you want to do that is put a call out.
Sure.
It's funny when you put it out, things will come.
Mm-hmm.
But it's got to align with you. And I notice that every time I put a call out, people come out. DM, hi, I would like to join you. So for that person that asked, I would say it could be your social media, it could be an email, it could be if you're at a staff meeting. Hey, I would love to do this thing. Let me know if you're interested. And that's all I did. And it's funny, then that person tells their friend tells their friend. And I'm a real believer in word of mouth. So I'm not big on advertising my classes. I'm not big on all the things, all the stuff that I'm actually a grandma inside, guys. Under all of these colors, I'm a real tech phobe who is a real grandma, you know, like I just love tea and I'm not technology based at all. But what I am into is putting a call out.
Yeah.
And people come and there's all these other grandmas in like, you know, 40 something suits out there that just want to hang out.
Yeah,
so
completely.
Don't be afraid. And if no one says yes, it's not a reflection on you. It's a reflection on where people are and they will come.
Yeah.
But you need to really just be brave and say it out loud.
Right. Yeah.
In a public space. And yeah.
It's kind of like, it's like, you're right, putting it out into the universe to say, hey, here's a thing, here's an opportunity. And I love, because I know Ink Air Ink Zinc, this is whose Instagram is we're talking about. Amazing handle, I can't say it, but basically I'm like, I know there's concern, right? I know, love it, but I can't say it. But I think part of it too is that sometimes as the art teacher, you don't want to feel like you have to be on. So maybe it's a matter of starting with Yaz's suggestion of getting the word out there, having people be interested, say, hey, are you guys interested in creating? Do you need an outlet? And then sort of setting the norms at the beginning and saying like, my job for this meeting is not to teach you, but instead to give you a space, right? To say like, I probably won't be giving you like a step-by-step tutorial, but I'm going to give you some ideas and I'll happily be like a conversationalist to talk with you through it. You know what I mean?
I wish I knew their name. Sorry, Inky.
Yeah, go ahead and put your
name
in there.
I'm going to put your name down there. I think as well, you just be honest about like that you don't want to teach. You actually just want to create a community. I think for me, in any relationship, this isn't just with art or business or family. I always tell my husband, transparency is key.
Yeah.
Like it's key. I am not perfect. I do not know all the things. I am still constantly learning art and technology and people and learning about my own self-sabotage in the process, you know. Growing through it and feeling the discomfort and feeling okay with it and being okay. So I would say put the call out, be transparent, say you're not going to be the art teacher, but you would love to hang out with other creatives. And there's a no pressure space. So like You know, tea does help. It's a real buffer. So like,
Yes.
it's, you know, when people walk in and it's a bit like awkward, I just go, tea? To like, you know, loosen it up a bit. All the grandmas in here, let's do it.
I love it.
So I love the idea. And I think that word of mouth, and just say you get 2 people, they love it, they'll tell someone else. Next minute, you've got 12 adults all wanting to hang out every week.
Yeah.
And that's what's happened to me. It's just turned into this, wow, how did this happen? You know, how did this happen? And I guess bringing it back to your original question, Sarah, about how did these collaborations come to be? I often tell myself, how did this happen? You know, and it's saying yes to things that light me up. That's what's happened. So I've said yes to it. Like I said yes to Nick Hahn 2019. And I remember she said, you know, I do this work and blah, blah, blah. I would never have believed her if I said in 2 years' time, you're going to live through a pandemic, you're going to live through being unwell, you're going to start your own business, you're going to be on Insta Live with Sarah. I'd be like, you're having a laugh. There's no way. But it turns out collaboration is just saying yes, even when you're scared. So I'm, you know, I know that I come across quite confidently, but before anything like this, there's this monkey mind playing tricks, like you're gonna not know what to say or whatever. It's a shh, and just leaping and trusting that your true self will present itself in that moment. So basically when I do collaborations, is that what you were asking, right?
Initially we were just talking about the sort of like collaborations with other educators, which, by the way, thank you for everybody in the chat that's answering the questions. They were wondering your handle. So Tiny Cupboard Creatives, I saw Abby popped it in there too, and you are from Australia, so make sure people will follow you, and we will get to that too at the end, so keep sticking around. But I'm going to let Yaz finish your thoughts. So we're talking about that, how you're collaborating with other educators.
Yeah, well, it's interesting, especially with the Tarawara Museum of Art. Shannon, who is a practicing artist, who's the education coordinator, it's really important to vibe with people, you know, when you share the similar philosophy. So she understood that I really like to, it's like kneading bread, get into the story. And I'm always hunting for the one line that lights me up about the artist. So for me, a good collaboration is when you're in the same zone, you get each other's philosophies, and then it kind of just grows. So when I did the Filipino embassy in Australia gig, I was like, how am I going to do this, translate one culture into an Australian Filipino child, 3rd generation? I was like, everyone loves, and I think with that one I did Pasita Abad, who's a really famous Filipino artist. She coined a technique called Trapunto, which is she would basically stuff her paintings with treasures that she's found on her travels and sew them in there. Okay,
that's amazing.
So what I did for the Filipino embassy collaboration, I like to always sound my ideas to other creatives, and I'm lucky to sit around it. And what we decided was the kids had to bring a memory or a photo that they would fold up and put inside their painting.
Wow.
And it gives me goosebumps at the thought. One of the kids, her name's Michaela, she actually drew a dog, her cousin's dog that passed away.
Yeah.
She's 4. Yeah. And I got goosebumps because people were putting their grandparents that had passed during COVID, the dogs, or a happy beach memory. And they were drawn, painted, or photos. They folded it up, we put it in their painting, and we stitched it in. So I said, your artwork has a heartbeat now.
Oh, wow. That is deep. And
it is deep, and it was an art lesson.
Yep, I love it. You're going to need to send me that artist that you had as the inspiration, and I will be happy to share
the lesson on the embassy website, so I'll send that to you.
Yep, and then I can share that on the Art Event too.
When you collaborate, we all have a heart, we all have a spark, and it's just trying to find, like, you know, when sparklers meet each other, it's that intersection. Yeah. And in that moment, it was hard because everyone loves something.
Completely.
And you can't screw that up, right?
Oh boy.
So yeah, I know. Do you know what I've learned, Sarah? Like, a lot of my art is not about the art. It's about the conversation I hold around it. Yep. It's like the fairy floss that I glisten my lessons with. And that's why people that's why I feel like there's enough for everybody, because it depends what the adults or the kids want. Do they want the technique? It's often not the technique. They're after the buzz that they leave with, you know?
Yeah.
And so for that collaboration especially, it was sensory, but also literally a piece of their heart went into a painting, and now it's on a wall. So I said, and every time you walk past that artwork, and we have all done it when we've invested in art, when you walk past that artwork, I want you to feel that love when you whoosh past it. And so the fact that there are 30 kids around Australia, it was an Australian-wide experience, that have this piece of art, for me, that's power.
Oh, yeah.
I've got this little superpower in their room now, or in the house, where they've got a beautiful memory in there. And I think all artwork has it. I've just given it a literal form.
Yeah, yeah.
And through a Filipino artist, which links to all of this
yes
Technicolor stuff that's happening.
Well,
I
mean, that is an amazing lesson and an amazing conversation, which, as we know, it's oftentimes more about that, the process, the conversation, the creation, than it is specifically the end result, right? So I wanted to kind of wrap it up with a little bit, and I'll be sure, I know you're going to message me that Instagram artist to follow, and I'll be sharing that all in the Art of Ed for everybody that's questioning who to follow and who to see next. But I did just want to ask you one more question before I do the giveaway for our super rainbow stickers. Okay, so the last question, Yaz, was, you said you had a really powerful experience reading The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron. And I wanted you to just give us any parting words or any advice on how we should move forward to either cultivate our own community of creatives, or just how that book impacted who you are as an artist or as a creative.
Can I just say, everybody, and thank you for coming. All these people are popping up onto my website. I'm like, oh, good.
Oh, by the way, hold on a second. Let's see, Geraldine. Now I can't find, Geraldine. She said, I wish this was recorded. Well, hey, girl, it is. So it's going to be saved on our Instagram Live. If you go to the Art of Ed and then click on the little IGTV tab, all of our previous chats are saved there, and this one will be as well. So you all are welcome to save this. And then we also put them up on YouTube, so you can watch them later. So if you're missing anything, or you want to rewatch it, or any past chats, they will be on Instagram and they will be on YouTube. So just to put that in there real quick. Okay, give us your goodness. Yes.
Okay. The Artist's Way. I'm gonna say, read it. That's all. It changed it. I did it for fun, and at the end of the book club, I actually said, I kind of feel guilty that I took $5 from everybody. Because it changed my life. Yeah. It changed my life. And in that group, people had started businesses that they'd been thinking about. Someone had decided, I'm going to move house. We're going to sell our house. We're going to renovate. We're going to move. We're going to, I was just like, it was this. So essentially, what is it? It was a call to action. Yeah. It was not in a, woo, let's call to action. It wasn't that at all. Every day, it was basically 12 chapters, 12 weeks, where you unpick yourself like a garment. And you find, when did this happen? When did I decide that I wasn't good at things? Who told me I was crap? And it was this kind of, you're finding your way into who you are, what you're about, and trying to remove the blockages. Yeah. And you know what the big thing was, guys, from that book is, and there were so many whoa moments, is we don't play enough. So one of my mantras, and I know you love a good mantra. Yes. Is I say in my journal, I allow myself to experience the delight in the everyday. Ooh, that's beautiful. That's my mantra. Yeah. Yeah. So it changes depending on what I need. But, I believe, I always write, I'm worthy and I'm willing to receive good. But the big one for me, as a mama with 2 young children, hustling hard, not even hustling sort of weird, but really trying to follow the spark, running a household, I forget to enjoy the everyday. And that's that's the whole point. That's where we are. That's where we'll forever be. Yeah. So find the delight in every day. So it actually says to you, to take yourself on a date. You know what I found the hardest, Sarah? I forgot how to have fun without people,
Yeah.
without eating, without having a drink, or without buying anything. I was like, so what do you want to do today?
Sit.
I don't know. I don't know. What do I want to do today?
Yeah.
So it turns out I loved riding my bike and taking, like, just snipping flowers that were overhanging from fences and making little bouquets. And so the big thing for the artist way is make time, like, remember how to have fun with yourself, like in a creative sense. Like, take yourself on a date, and the journaling is about activating. It's like getting all of this gunk that's in your brain telling you can't do things. I don't have time. I'm not good at it. Putting that on the page, moving it out of the way, and then proceeding forth in your day. Yes. So play, find delight in the everyday, and that connection, turns out, is where the flow's at. And anyway, that's something really light.
It's exactly what we needed to hear. Yes, I promise you. It makes me want to go buy the book right now, but also even just hearing your sort of synopsis of it is so inspiring, because it's just reminding us of something that feels simple, like play. Hey, don't forget to enjoy whatever, but like it really
that's the hardest thing.
It's what we're doing. Otherwise, what's the point?
Well, it's really hard in it's so silly. That, look, guys, also there is discomfort in that book, but discomfort comes growth, right?
Of course.
So ride the discomfort, and I promise you crazy, awesome things happen. But it turns out for me, my block is I create every day. That's my job. But do I create for my own spark? Not as much as I should.
Sure.
You know, like I'm always creating with the intention of sharing. That's my superpower. I want to share this. Oh, that's a great lesson. I'm going to share that with these. So and so would love that. But do I say to myself, that's really good for me? And that's a real, like, oof. I forgot to water my own creative source first. Yeah. So that for me is the big takeaway from the Artist's Way is make sure you water, and you hear it all the time, you know, can't pour from an empty cup. But it really made it real. It wasn't some woo-woo. It was actionable steps. Yeah. So, like, here's 20 ideas. Choose 3.
Love it.
So there's no reason to not try.
Right.
Yeah.
And people that maybe are a little bit more like, we're visual, we're kind of like up here. We need things to ground us at times. Correct. So yes, again, I'm hearing a lot of suggestions. And to clarify again, the book, The Artist's Way, Julia Cameron, thank you all for responding to those questions in the chat. It sounds like an amazing one that was life-changing for you, for sure. So for those of you that do not already know Miss Beautiful Yaz, you can follow her at Tiny Cupboard Creatives. And again, we'll be saving this chat in the Instagram Live at the Art of Ed, so you're welcome to rewatch it and share it as much as you can. But real quick, I gotta get y'all a sticker. So here's how this like amazing rainbow sticker thing works is I just love when y'all join us live. So this is my special treat for anybody that's here live that answers a question. So how it works is I need the first person that I see respond, because we know sometimes stuff is weird with internet, but the first one that I see in the chat to respond to the question will win a holographic palette sticker from the Art of Education University and come in your way. So here's the question. And again, all you have to do is respond. And if you're the first one, I will send you a message and you can give me your address. Question. Get those typing fingers ready. From what country is Yaz joining us today? I feel like I need some like fun music.
I can't see the comments. So
I can see them. I don't see the answer yet. From what country is Yaz joining us today? Yay! Okay, Susan Ali. Australia.
Oh
Susan Ali.
I know her. She's so talented. Hi,
Yay!
Susie.
Oh my gosh, girl.
Oh my God, Susie.
Thank you all for joining. I'm going to message Susan. I assume her name's Susan. I will message you so I can get you your super dope sticker. Friendly reminder for those of you that were just joining, remember you can always watch this chat and previous chats on the Art of Ed, and also be sure to just check out the Art of Ed for any resources. Those of you that are maybe looking for jobs, we got a really dope job that's posted right now about being a senior editor, so you could be the person that helps be in charge of what happens on Instagram Live and YouTube. And if you love art education and creatives, there's some really cool openings happening at the Art of Ed that are opening. So feel free to go to the Art of Ed careers. I believe it's under careers or work with us, and then you can find some more information there. So if any of y'all are looking for a little more info, check it out. Okay, Yaz, I will be saving this. I will be sharing a bunch of amazing things that you shared with us. I feel so inspired, and hopefully you are awake for your Tuesday morning, and I'm gonna go take a Monday night
I know.
nap.
I'm like, oh, I need to go find a coffee. What time is it?
Oh,
But,
thank you
my kids didn't
so
walk in.
much
That
for
was a
joining us,
miracle.
Yaz. You are a true joy to speak to. I am so blessed to be able to talk to you today.
Oh, Sarah, thank you for having me, and so are you. I'm so
Absolutely
grateful. And thanks, everyone, for coming.
Yay! Thanks, everybody.
Yay!
Have a great day.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Oh, how do I go?